Theodore B. Olson, a legendary figure in American law, passed away just after midnight on Wednesday at the age of 84, following a massive stroke. With an illustrious career that spanned decades, Olson argued 65 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court, both as the United States Solicitor General and as a private attorney. His life's work left an indelible impact on American jurisprudence, and his legacy is marked by landmark cases that shaped the nation's legal landscape. Olson's rise to national prominence began with the historic Bush v. Gore case in 2000, which effectively settled the outcome of the contested presidential election, delivering victory to George W. Bush. This case, argued in the wake of an extraordinarily close election, cemented Olson's reputation as one of the most skilled and high-profile attorneys of his time. His victory in Bush v. Gore immediately thrust him into the national spotlight and signaled the beginning of a complex relationship with both the public and political figures across the ideological spectrum. In 2001, Olson was nominated to serve as Solicitor General by then-President George W. Bush. This nomination sparked a fierce battle in Congress, with Democratic leaders questioning his political impartiality due to his prominent role in Bush v. Gore. Despite these concerns, he was narrowly confirmed by the Senate in a tight vote, and he went on to serve from 2001 to 2004. Once in office, Olson proved to be a fierce defender of the law and demonstrated his ability to set aside personal convictions to uphold the rule of law. Notably, in 2003, he defended a major campaign finance law that sought to limit the influence of money in politics. Known for his long-standing opposition to campaign finance restrictions, Olson nonetheless argued on behalf of the government, saying simply, "Congress passed the law. My duty was to defend it even if I disagreed with the policy." The case was ultimately upheld by the Supreme Court, marking one of Olson's most paradoxical yet principled victories. Despite this victory, Olson would later switch roles. As a private attorney, he returned to the Supreme Court to challenge aspects of the same campaign finance statute he had once defended, resulting in a ruling that rolled back some of its provisions. In a memorable interview with the Wall Street Journal, Olson explained his perspective. If dancing nude and burning the flag are protected by the First Amendment, why would it not protect robust speech about people who are running for office? This evolution in his approach reflected a consistent commitment to his core beliefs about free speech, regardless of changing roles or prevailing public sentiment. Olson's years as Solicitor General were marked by both professional dedication and profound personal tragedy. On September 11, 2001, his wife, Barbara Olson, was among the passengers on American Airlines Flight 77, which terrorists hijacked and crashed into the Pentagon. Barbara Olson, a well-known conservative commentator and author, called her husband from the plane, alerting him to the hijacking in her final moments. Recounting the call in a 2016 interview with NPR, Olson recalled, "She told me that her plane had been hijacked. We talked for a minute or two, and then the line went dead." This tragic loss deeply affected Olson, who immersed himself in his work at the Department of Justice, providing critical legal support for many of the Bush administration's anti-terrorism policies. Yet Olson's dedication to upholding the law was not without limits. On more than one occasion, he cautioned Bush administration officials, including President Bush himself, that some of the policies they were implementing in the name of national security might not withstand scrutiny by the Supreme Court. His foresight was later vindicated in two landmark cases. One involved the indefinite detention of a U.S. citizen at Guantanamo Bay without access to legal counsel, a policy Olson warned was unconstitutional. The second concerned the controversial torture guidelines that had permitted extreme interrogation methods. Olson's warnings went unheeded in the moment, but the policies were ultimately challenged and deemed unconstitutional by the court. Outside his tenure as Solicitor General, Olson spent much of his legal career in private practice, where he advocated for various clients, including major corporations. Known as a rock star in conservative legal circles, particularly within the Federalist Society, Olson frequently represented businesses and conservative causes. However, he was also known for his unpredictability. Olson surprised many of his colleagues by championing causes traditionally opposed by conservatives, most notably when he represented the so-called Dreamers, young immigrants who had been brought to the United States as children. Olson argued and won a case that allowed nearly 700,000 Dreamers to stay in the United States, a move that drew admiration from many across the political spectrum. In 2010, Olson took on an even more surprising and groundbreaking case when he led the legal fight to overturn California's Proposition 8, a state constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage. Working alongside his frequent opponent and former colleague David Boies, Olson challenged the ban on same-sex marriage, arguing that it violated the fundamental rights of LGBTQ+ couples. His involvement in the case was notable not only for the legal battle itself, but also because it signaled a departure from traditional conservative views. In an interview, Olson explained why he, a self-described conservative, felt compelled to fight for marriage equality. If you are a conservative, how could you be against a relationship in which people who love one another want to publicly state their vows, and engage in a household in which they are committed to one another and become part of the community and accepted like other people? This case eventually led to the landmark 2015 Supreme Court decision in Obergefell-Hodges, which legalized same-sex marriage nationwide, and Olson's role in this pivotal moment is remembered as one of the highlights of his career. Throughout his career, Olson's work was distinguished by a dedication to the Constitution and a willingness to challenge even those closest to him in defense of what he believed was right. His judicial philosophy emphasized the importance of legal precedent, the protection of individual liberties, and an unwavering commitment to free speech. Despite his strong ties to the conservative legal community, Olson was a complex figure whose opinions and actions often transcended party lines. For all his professional accomplishments, those who knew Olson remembered him as a deeply compassionate individual whose personal losses informed his legal battles. In addition to the tragedy of losing his wife on 9/11, Olson experienced the highs and lows of a life lived at the intersection of the personal and the political. His ability to empathize with clients and adversaries alike was a defining feature of his personality and contributed to his reputation as not just a brilliant legal mind, but a kind and humane figure within the legal community. Theodore Olson's passing marks the end of an era for American law. His influence on cases that shaped modern constitutional law, particularly in the areas of free speech, election law, and individual rights, will endure as his lasting legacy. Known for his rigorous dedication to the principles of justice, Olson's work touched on some of the most profound and divisive issues of the past several decades, from the aftermath of 9/11 to the legal recognition of same-sex marriage. As the nation reflects on his legacy, Olson is remembered not just as a lawyer, but as a principled advocate for the Constitution and a voice for change within the legal profession.